are kicking this off. So hopefully we start to see a live feed coming through. And we are, man. All right, so ripping these lives. Go live, go live, go live, and go live. And one more. Okay. All right, D. We're there, bro. We're going live. We're going live. Now, we are live across 1,000 different places, my man. We're on my profile, my Facebook page, the Better Body Academy page, YouTube, the free group, your group, our 2 client groups. So it's like 8 places. So, yeah, man. How you doing, dude?
I'm good, man. It's a pleasure to have you. You're a busy man.
Oh man, it's the pleasure's mine. So where are you actually based at? So you're in Central Time Zone.
I am Central Standard here in Fort Worth, Texas.
Fort Worth, Texas. Dude, I've never actually been to Texas, and I heard it's actually beautiful.
The land of beef. Yes, it is.
The land of beef. I love it. Yeah. What's the sell on Texas? Like, what's the best thing about Texas?
The best thing about Texas.
The weather? Is it the weather?
No, it's not the weather, my friend.
Crazy hot?
It's crazy hot. Then it can, like right now, it's a summer-spring season. Yeah, it's officially supposed to be spring, but it feels like summer.
How far inland are you from Palm Springs? Like a fair way?
Yeah, I'm more northern than to Palm Springs is more south.
Right, got it. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, closer to the water. Yeah, we have the nearest body of water we have is in Galveston, Texas.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Well, man, that's I've got no idea. So anyway, let's get on with this. So team, what is going on? Good evening, good afternoon, or good morning if it is for you. I'm here with my boy D'Andre, and if you don't know who D'Andre is, this guy is a bloody legend. So he's actually running his own small-scale transformation group, starting to grow. And look, this guy reached out to me, and he's serious. So when we get into the podcast, dude, I think it'd be cool to tell the audience a little bit about your story, because, man, it's pretty inspiring, to be fair. So if you're coming into this one, guys, let us know that you're live. If you're in D'Andre's group, g'day. I hope you're good. I think we'll get started. And if you guys have any questions, the reason I'm turning this way is because Facebook doesn't allow us to display questions on the screen anymore. I've got to look at my phones at the same time. So ask any questions throughout and we are good to go. You ready to rock this, Casper, bro?
Yeah, let's go, man.
Let's get stuck into it. All right, let's go. On the count of 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Welcome back to the Better Body Academy podcast. Now, this is the podcast that you come to when you are sick of the dumb diets and unsustainable workout programs. And if you're listening to this live, you'll notice that the handsomeness of this podcast has gone through the roof. And that's because I'm joined by my boy in Texas, D'Andre Mccarter. And he's actually in the process of starting a podcast as well called Chew the Fat. Now, in just a moment, I'm going to hand the reins of this podcast over to D'Andre. But before we do that, firstly, dude, welcome to our podcast. Tell us a bit about your story, man. Like in terms of where you've come from weight-wise, how you got there, and the direction you're going, man.
Okay, good. I would say about a year ago, now 2 years ago, I was at about 576 pounds.
Wow.
And how I got there, that's a story within itself of perpetual bad habits and not taking care of myself. But the coincidental thing I'm in the culinary industry. I work as a professional chef. So that's kind of saying that an alcoholic working in a liquor store. It doesn't mix.
Yeah. But having said that, man, it's like the restaurant game is the perfect like storm for being overweight and having a really tough life. Like, you're working when everyone else is partying. You have like constantly surrounded by food. And even though, like, regardless of wage and profitability of the restaurant, effectively you eat for free, effectively.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
And then you're so tired all the time. So I reckon, along with something like the mining industry or underground mining, I think chefing is a really freaking difficult trade to be in and stay healthy.
Yeah, it is. And it did not help because my mindset was so wrapped up in working. I was doing anywhere from 15 to 17 hours per day.
Wow.
And that's large resorts, doing weddings. And as a big guy, that played a toll on my knees, on my body. And I just thought I was overworked. So what happened last year, I was having problems standing. I was having problems walking. I said, well, hey, I just need to take some time off. But once it was a vicious cycle. Once I went back to work and I felt I was rested, sitting was hurting, standing was hurting. So I went to see a doctor, and that's where I received my diagnosis. Bone on bone arthritis in both knees. So in my occupation, that was detrimental to my career.
Yeah, because so I had ending constantly.
Yeah, constantly. And inflammation, swelling. Then my blood pressure shot up, loss of oxygen, blood clotting issues. Listen, man, I was dying. I was literally dying. And my wife, my then girlfriend, she stayed with me. She said, hey, I'm here to support you. As a matter of fact, the first gift she bought me, man, as we was dating, was a scale. She bought a scale that allowed me to weigh myself.
So you bought her a wedding ring and she bought you a scale. That is awesome. And dude, so where are you now, like, in terms of your weight? So you started like
five, almost 600 pounds.
Yeah.
Now I am 413.
Ooh.
And yeah. So
wow.
So I'm breathing better. As a matter of fact, I wanted to report to you also. I was on 2 blood pressure medications. Yeah. My doctor have just taken me off of one.
Get out of town. Well, you heard it here, folks, on the podcast. This is what happens. You know, it's really, really hard to get started, as D'Andre has showed us, but there is a way. And I think a lot of people, it's a sad fact that a lot of people need to touch near death to actually do something about it, which is scary, man, because you've been there. But let's save this for when you've lost another 50 pounds. Let's bring you back on the podcast as a client. We're here today for you to flip the script and ask some really basic questions that I guess have come from your group, and also that you struggled with at the start of your journey, and ask them in a way that I can perhaps provide some free coaching to anyone that's tuning in and watching this video.
Gotcha. So there's a lot of information out here in the weight loss industry, as you know. A lot of white noise. Everyone is a guru. There's a lot of false marketing. So these questions are going to address those weight loss industry hacks. And I want my guys in my group to get as a matter of fact, education on these questions, right?
Cool.
So the first question from my group, chew the fat. Oh, by the way, do you know what chew the fat means?
Yeah, I've actually thought that was an Aussie term, but basically it means like to have a conversation, like a couple of books sitting around. Yeah. Okay, we're on the same page with that. Yeah.
Okay, so first question. Is juicing a long-term plan or a short-term plan?
Dude, I remember our first conversation this year. That was after a while of kind of text chat. This might trigger a few people, but I got to tell you, dudes, that like juicing is up there with the silliest things that one can do. Now, can juice be healthy? Yes, juice can be healthy, definitely. But the simplest way for me to answer this is that if you took an average glass of orange juice, it would take, what, like 3, 4, 5 oranges to mash it up and turn it into a decent glass of juice, right? Would you ever eat 3, 4, 5 oranges in one go? And no, the answer, of course, is not. You'd have one, maybe at a stretch, two. And so essentially what juicing does is gives you a whole lot of vitamins and minerals. That's a good thing, but that's got nothing to do with weight management. Zero to do with weight management. Weight management is about calories. That's it. Nothing else. So the problem, I think, with if you lost weight doing juice, the major issue is this. You're going to be hungry a lot. You're going to feel healthy because you're having lots of vitamins and minerals. So that's a good thing. It feels healthy. But as a long-term strategy, are you intending to just drink juice for the rest of your life? If the answer is no, if the answer is yes, then go for it. But if the answer is no, then you might lose weight doing the juicing because the total calories of your diet goes down. But the moment you start eating again, well, what happens? You put the weight back on. The other point to note is that juice doesn't contain any protein at all. So this is one of the reasons why you're going to be constantly hungry. The second problem with that, and I noticed this with a lot of people on restrictive diets, D'Andre, is that yes, you can lose weight. The problem is you want to be losing body fat. Like this stuff, right? This stuff that clogs your heart. You do not want to be losing muscle. If you lose muscle, some things happen. You get weak, number one. That's not a good thing. Number two, you might weigh less on the scales. But do you want to look like a saggy plastic bag? That's not the goal. You want to be strong. You want to have some composition. And the third thing that no one talks about, and this happens to a lot of people who have surgery to lose weight, or they go on The Biggest Loser. They lose the weight, but they do it in a way that chops out all the protein, so they lose a lot of muscle as well. And when you lose a lot of muscle, your calorie burn really slows down. We call this our metabolism. So then what ends up happening is it becomes this like a race to the bottom. Your metabolism goes down. So even though you lost some initial weight, now you need to reduce your calories to keep pace with your reduced metabolism. Metabolism goes down further because you've lost more muscle. Now we have to reduce the calories going in further. And eventually you get to this point where people are eating 800 to 1,000 calories a day. They have no muscle. They've lost a decent amount of weight, but they have to keep eating 500 to 800, 1,000 calories forever to be able to maintain that. And I don't know about you, dude, but that's a horrible existence. You don't have any love for food at all. So that probably that answer, D'Andre, is more applicable to highly restrictive, low-calorie diets generally, rather than just picking on juices.
Gotcha. Perfect. Good answer. All right, next question. How do I get over mental hurdles of losing weight?
Whoa, that's a tough question, dude, because it depends obviously what the mental hurdle is. I think okay, what comes to me in answering this question first of all, you're going to go through mental hurdles like, for example, fat loss plateaus. There's nothing more frustrating when you think you're doing really well and the weight's coming off, but then you hit the weight loss plateau. That's that's often that it's not that you're doing something wrong. It's that your body is trying to keep you alive, because if you keep losing weight at this crazy rate, where does it end? You end up in a coffin, right? So your natural, the response of your body, or the job of your metabolism, is to stop you from losing weight really, really quickly. So what's happening is, emotionally and mentally, you want an outcome but your body's only goal is to keep you alive. So we go
Mm-hmm.
through these periods of where it's very emotional, and when you feel like you're failing, well, then what do? Typically, the way most people treat that is they eat.
Right.
I was having a call with our advanced mastermind students this morning, and it's kind of like the biggest struggle about managing weight, I think, is that aside from like masturbation, it's the one predictable thing that we know that we can do to ourselves that gives us pleasure. Right? Like we know that if we eat that thing, that's going to feel good. So the actual biggest challenge I think around weight management is not knowing what to do, but it's being able to do it when it feels good. And
Mm-hmm.
this is
Mm-hmm.
why I think, in terms of our model, D'Andre, it's really, really important that you're not just cutting food out, but you're replacing it with food that makes you feel good, that tastes good. It's also the
Mm-hmm.
reason why, having chicken and broccoli, yes, it will help you lose weight, but if you're sitting there the whole time thinking this is just not enjoyable, then you're only going to do it for a short period of time.
Right.
I personally
Right.
think that the actual mental battles that we're having are going to come down to, the kind of mechanism that you're using to lose the weight. And let's also talk about one more thing here. What's the support that you've got? I think it's great that you've created a community, because everyone thinks that they need the plan, they need the meal plan, they need the workout plan, they need this, they need that. No, what you need is the support. You need to be
Mm-hmm.
in community. You need to have provers around you, like you are now proving to other people, hey, if I can do it, you can do it.
Exactly.
The community is everything, because it's not when you fall off, you will fall off. That's
Mm-hmm.
part of it. But
Yeah.
you've got to have that community around you at the same time to keep you on track.
And that community also gives you an outlet to be accountable,
Big
show
time.
some accountability. So when you do fall off, you can say, hey guys, this is where I am.
Yeah.
This is what I'm doing. And tomorrow is a new day.
Tomorrow's a new
So,
day. Yep.
uh, I certainly appreciate that. And you talked about food tasting good. So let's go into the next question.
Mm-hmm.
What meal plan uh, do we need to follow to burn fat?
That's a great question, yeah, and probably the question that everyone searches for on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram is like, what do I need to
Mhm.
do to lose weight, right? So by far and away, I think that nutrition is the place that you've got to start, because that's the part that most people are doing wrong. I'm going to say this: you can do all the exercise in the world, but if you're not doing your nutrition right, you'll struggle.
Yeah.
In the flip side, you can do your nutrition right and do zero exercise and still lose weight. I'm not recommending that, because the benefits of exercise, and we're not going to, that's kind of boring to talk about that stuff, but there's the independent value in exercise, mental health being number one, getting muscle number two, making you feel good and staying strong, and all these different things. But at the same time, you can lose weight without exercise just by manipulating your diet. So the only thing that causes fat loss, is getting into a calorie deficit, which simply means eating less calories than you burn up every day.
Mm-hmm.
The problem that people have is that they think that, oh, well, I'll just burn more calories. But if you look over the course of a day, what amount or what proportion of your calories are burned by exercise? For most people, it's about 5 to 10%.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very small fraction, which is why you can't out exercise your diet. But
Mm-hmm.
this is why the nutrition's the target. Now, what would I personally recommend in terms of a strategy? Well, for me, there are strategies like carnivore and vegetarian and keto. All these strategies they kind of pick on one food group and eliminate the rest. Why would you do that when the simple thing that you can do is just enjoy an array of different foods without needing to pick on one food? And you can do this for the rest of your life. And within
Mm-hmm.
that strategy, we've got to do two things. Number one, we've got to get ourselves into a calorie deficit. Number two, we've got to eat enough protein. We've got to eat enough protein for two reasons. One, protein fills us up. So if we're in a calorie deficit, we're running out of petrol. The tank's empty. But the protein keeps us full. That's the first thing. The second thing is, when we're running out of petrol, we want to make sure that we're burning fat, not burning muscle protein as a fuel source. Because when you run out of petrol, because you're in a calorie deficit, you're eating less calories than you're burning up. Your body's saying, okay, all the food energy is gone. Now what do you want me to do? And you want to say to your body, okay, this is good. This is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to run out of petrol. Take mostly fat. But if you don't have enough protein, what will happen is it'll be fat and muscle. And you'll jump on the scales and celebrate. The problem is you shouldn't be celebrating because you've lost muscle, and this is consequential in the long term. It's not a good thing. So the answer to your question is a little bit long-winded, but it is eat enough protein, get into a calorie deficit. How you do that, the mechanism you do that, doesn't matter. You can do some fasting. You can back end your calories towards a day. You can back end your calories a week. You can have high calorie days. You can have low calorie days. You can do keto, making sure that you're having enough protein. You can be a vegetarian, making sure that you get enough protein in as well through vegetarian sources. There's a million different ways you can achieve it, but you've got to achieve, one, being in a calorie deficit, and two, eating enough protein. And if you do those two things, well, then you're good. So our strategy for doing that is eat anything you want. Like why pigeonhole yourself into only eating carbs or only eating fat or only eating protein? You don't need to do that. I'd prefer a situation where I can have a beer, I can go out for dinner, I can enjoy a steak, I might have a vegetarian meal here. Why would you pigeonhole yourself when it's just unnecessary?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Good. Makes plenty of sense, man.
Cool.
Plenty of sense. Thank you so much. The next question, and this is for, I have more women than I do men in my new group.
Sure.
And I get this question. What should be my caloric intake for men versus women?
Yeah. So, look, we give a guide, but ultimately it's going to depend on the individual. So the caveat is it depends on the individual. When I say the individual, age, sex, height, current weight, history of dieting, etc. But to give you a guide, I try to simplify it for people. And, not that it's a flex, but I'm a university qualified dietitian. I've been doing this a long time, right? What I can tell you is that if you jump on any internet calculator and you plug your numbers in and you plug in, I'm a woman or I'm a man, I weigh X amount, I'm this tall, and I'm mostly sedentary, which is the most of the world, you're going to come back with a figure that says women, maintenance calories, 2,000 to 2,200. Men, maintenance calories, 2,400 to 2,700. So women, 2,000 to 2,200. Men, 2,400 to 2,700. And the increase for men is just because, generally speaking, more muscle mass, which means they burn more calories. So this is to maintain weight. So this basically means that if you're a woman and your maintenance calories are 2,100 and you eat 2,100, you will maintain your weight. A calorie deficit means eating less than your maintenance calories. What we want to do is we want to choose a number that is doable, not overly restrictive. So we generally give our clients the number of 1,500 to 1,600, which represents for most people a 300 to 400 calorie deficit. For a man, we would knock the maintenance calories down by, again, 400 to 500, which gives us roughly 2,000 calories. And that's what we would target. And at that number, we know that people are going to be in a calorie deficit. But where the individual kind of caveats come in is that, let's say a woman has, and this happens frequently, let's say that a woman has arrived with us that she's been dieting for a long time. She's at 800 calories and she's got 100 pounds to lose. That is a frequent occurrence. So think about that situation. 800 calories a day they're eating, and they're 100 pounds overweight. This person should not be put into a further calorie deficit. Where would they go? 500 calories, like 400 calories, oxygen diet, like you know what I mean? So in this circumstance, the game with this person is going to be a very long-term game of, first, we need to try to improve their metabolism, and we're going to do that by increasing calories slowly, gradually increasing calories to try to push their metabolism north. But this could take, it's a long game. For some of our ladies that we've worked with, it's to see any actual movements, like increasing calories for a year before we can even try to do any decreasing. So it's kind of, it does depend. Then you might have the guy that's kind of been eating like a complete arsehole all of his life, and he's eating 5,000 calories a day. Well, with him, all you might need to do is like literally just chop the soda out of his diet, just drop the Coke, and he'll start losing weight like nothing else.
That's what I've done.
So the final thing that I'd kind of say on that point is, if you are a woman and if you're listening to this, like, do not compare against men. If you compare against men, particularly if you're a woman that's going on her journey with her man, like, the man will lose weight faster in 99% of cases. And if you're comparing against him, it's going to be really horrible and emotional, and you won't like it, because he will lose weight quicker. And that's because generally of a higher muscle mass for men.
Most definitely. Okay, this next question, you and I personally talked about this one.
Okay.
What are some other ways we can measure success other than the scale?
Yeah, I feel like we have this conversation a lot, even though, like, particularly with our women, it's almost a struggle with our women a lot of the time, and I understand why. It's because weight loss can be emotional and challenging and slow, and then we say, yeah, but what about the non-scale victories? And they're kind of like, yeah, I'm back in it, like I'm active again, or I'm lifting weights again, but I just want to lose weight. And it's kind of like, it's really coming out of desperation to lose weight. But the reality is, your journey, like, is not going to be like that. It's just not going to be in a straight line. Like you said at the start, there's going to be mental hurdles, there's going to be plateaus, there's going to be days when you fall off the horse, and it's going to be tough. Right. And so you have to look for the non-scale victories to keep your momentum going forward. Now, what type of non-scale victories? I've actually created an ebook on this, which I gave about, I think it was like 100 non-scale victories, because there are endless amounts. So I'll give you some examples. If you've never, here's a great example. I'm not sure if she's watching actually, but Wendy Bell, one of our clients, she's approximately 50 years old, and she said this. She said, "Jace, I've got to tell you something. I hope she doesn't mind me sharing." She's like, "Oh, you wouldn't believe what happened the other day." After she'd been with us for maybe 3 months, she said, I got off the couch with a squat." So what do you mean? And for those like watching, she was going from a sitting position, and she just stood up like this. And she noticed, and she was like, "Holy shit," because what I usually do is this kind of awkward, like fucking, like, kind of wiggle out, right? Now, testament to Wendy's, holistic journey so far, that is such a win to me. Because when you're an 80-year-old woman that can just propel herself out of a seat with a squat, and of all people, the importance of our knees and our strength in our quads. That's a huge win. But if you're not cognizant of that, you're just not paying attention to that. You're just all about the scales. The thing is, if someone starts and they get up in the morning and all they think about is the scales, the scales, you start to become validated as a person.
Mm-hmm.
What a ridiculous existence that's going to be. That's going to be a tough existence. So, am I stronger? You know, have I got a body composition test where, for example, I weigh the same, but my lean mass has got stronger? And you would have that with something called a DEXA scan. You know, did you take your squat in the gym from 20 kilos to 30 kilos? Are your pants fitting? Like, you've got back into a pants that you haven't worn in years. Like, wow, that's cool. Or you've become more body confident where you've gotten into a swimsuit, like, and you've just gone to a pool without a towel wrapped around you. Like, there are so many things, and you've got to, the people that approach the journey like this, where they're a bit more aware and they're just not validating themselves with just scales. I'm not saying scales are not important, but not only are scales deceiving sometimes. So as an example, let's say that the person comes and starts their journey and they lose 10 pounds in the first week. Well, yes, a good portion of that's going to be fat. But if they've done it the wrong way, they're just juiced as an example. Well, a good portion of it's probably going to be muscle. They will have lost a lot of water, like fluid, due to the change in their diet. And then equally, someone that has decided to work out really hard might be a bit inflamed because they're working out. So they have some water retention. And so they step on the scales and they actually weigh 500 grams more or half a pound more. And they're like, oh, the scales have gone up, but they're misinterpreting. They've either put on muscle or they're just carrying more fluid, but it's because they're working out, and that's not a bad thing. So I guess the point is that if you're just looking at the scales and that's it, then it's very deceptive and certainly going to lead you off track quicker than, you know, am I getting stronger? Am I feeling fitter? Where's my mind at? Am I feeling more confident in myself? Am I getting in the gym and actually doing what I say I'm going to do? For me, when people ask about confidence building, how do I get confident? I'm just not confident enough to do this. Confidence is built when you say you're going to do something and you do it. That's it. Oh, how do I get more confident? I want to go on this public speaking course. No, just say you're going to do something and do it. If you say you're going to go for a walk, do it. If you say you're going to call someone back, do it. You become this person that just like constantly follows through.
Consistency is the key.
And we don't need to be so intense about everything. It's like, I said I'm going to do it, so I'm going to do it. Even if I don't feel like it.
That's it, man.
That's your question, brother.
Yeah. And these questions are, listen, these are questions I wrestled with and Jason helped me with. And I didn't realize I'm hearing myself over again when people ask me these questions.
Dude, here's a great example of a non-scale victory, right? You might have stepped on the scales this week and weighed a kilo more or 2 pounds more, right? You're fucking running a podcast around health, right? What a great way to flip the script than actually run a group or run a podcast with stuff about health. Like, that's a non-scale victory.
Most definitely. Appreciate that, man. Okay, so the next question. What do I do first when starting out my weight loss journey? Cardio or weight training? I already know what your answer is going to be, but go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I might actually trick you a little bit. Cardio or weight training, firstly, I would start with the nutrition. That's the thing that's going to move the needle the most. So nutrition is the first installment. But when it comes to cardio or weight training, you know that I definitely think that weight training is the long-term game. But I would split walking off from cardio. So I wouldn't lump walking in with cardio. Moving around is really important for your mental health, for your cardiovascular health. But running and rowing and cycling and doing these really kind of heart rate inducing activities is not necessary to lose weight, at least at the start. Walking is not only good for our mental health, but one of the things that you can do is start tracking your steps. And when you start tracking your steps, it'll give you an indication on how active you are as a human. So if you've got a desk-bound job, I'm looking at my steps, which are on my watch at the moment, and I'm at 4,000 steps for the day. That's an extremely sedentary day. Now, if I do this over and over and over again, and it's constantly, most people who work a desk job are 2,000 to 4,000 steps a day. This is extremely sedentary. Whereas on the weekend, I was just out with my kids and I didn't do any exercise, but I was at 11,000 steps for the day. I didn't do any exercise. So I think that walking is extremely important, and that's from an exercise perspective. If I was to put everything in a line, I would say, let's get your nutrition improved. Let's focus on increasing your steps. Let's get you lifting some sort of weight, doing strength training. And then when all of those things are in place and you've shifted the excess weight, then if you want to start doing some running or some cycling, then absolutely, let's do that. But let's get a bit of weight off first and let's worry about the things that are going to move the needle the most.
Gotcha.
Makes sense?
It makes plenty of sense. Okay, so we're rounding third base on the last question. And this is actually personal for me.
Sure.
Because I can't involve myself with high intensity workouts. So I have to be very careful.
Mm-hmm.
Having arthritis in my knee. So
yep.
When you're talking to someone that has a condition such as mine, but we're trying to get the weight off to get the necessary knee surgery, mm-hmm. What do you say to this individual?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that if you've got a lot of, one of the challenges of having a lot of weight to start and then starting to exercise of any kind is that you would have heard of like some foot issues like plantar fasciitis and the like. These issues originate, generally speaking, because the stress that you're now putting your feet under, it's just not used to doing that amount of stress. The load. We interviewed a podiatrist that really talked about for some people who are drastically overweight, doing 10,000 steps a day when they've been doing 2 or 1, it's not a good idea. In that circumstance, I think doing movements that support your weight, like rowing, cycling, and swimming are the 3 that come to mind. They're good ideas. They're good ideas. For the average person that's, 10 to 20 kilos in your terms, that's, 30 to 40 pounds overweight, I think getting out and walking is really good. But if we're talking people who were at your size originally, you want to be doing stuff that supports your body. In terms of the resistance training, really importantly, we're not trying to get our heart rate up. That is not the goal. Very importantly, our heart rate will go up, but we want to be having breaks in between our sets. When we're going into a gym, what we're trying to do is build muscle so that we build metabolism and strength. We're not trying to go into a gym to burn fat. We burn fat by walking, and most importantly, through being in a nutritional calorie deficit, through our diet. That's how we burn fat. The walking supports that. But we're not going into the gym. When we go into the gym, what we're trying to do is create a long-term plan. The long-term plan is building muscle. So for a gentleman like you, D'Andre, you could go in 2 ways. First way is really intense cardio, really restrictive diet, like, oh, come on, like Biggest Loser style. What will happen is this? You'll lose weight quickly, you'll plateau quickly, and you'll lose a lot of muscle. And then when Biggest Loser show stops and you start eating again, you're going to put all the weight back on, only this time you've got a terribly slow metabolism because you've lost all your muscle. Mm-hmm. And I think we had a conversation like this.
We did.
Instead, let's get you eating well, not starving yourself, eating well, having enough protein. Let's get you walking more. And if the walking's causing you foot issues or knee issues, let's just support your weight. And then when it comes to resistance training, let's get in the gym and let's get you strong, boy. because
Yeah.
a man like of your size, can do bench presses. Can do
Hmm.
doesn't have to do squats, but might be able to do, for example, a 45-degree leg press. So it's not all going through your ankles, as an example. And to all the ladies that might listen or watch this, there's this ever present like, oh, but I don't want to get bulky. This is the number one misunderstanding of the fitness industry in terms of women. I've trained since I was 10 years old with as close to great nutrition as possible and without taking steroids, but training 3 to 4 days per week. I'm as pretty much as big as I can get. So the chances of a woman, with due respect, low testosterone because you're a woman, inconsistent nutrition, not eating as much protein as I'm eating, training a couple of times a week in a gym, doing lots of cardio, and having a low level of calories, the chances of you getting bulky are so small, it's not even worth talking about. It's like winning the lotto.
Hmm.
And guess what? If you could get bulky, that would be a good thing because then your metabolism would be high. And when you're 60 years old and got a lot of muscle, you're not going to fall over like most people and end up in a nursing home with a broken, fractured hip and then die slowly. Like it's just so what happens is when we go into the gym, we get a pump, a temporary pump. Let's pretend it's our bicep. And
Hmm.
what's happening here is short term, there's blood in the muscle, so the muscle's engorged with blood. That's temporary. Unfortunately, that goes down. And every guy that's ever flexed in the mirror and went, yeah, knows that unfortunately you don't look like that 10 hours later. It's gone,
Hmm.
right? The second thing that you might have is some inflammation. That's because when you tear muscle fibers, which is the point of going to the gym, you tear muscle fibers, those muscle fibers need to be repaired. And
Hmm.
local inflammation means water is retained, and so it gives it the environment for repair and recovery. So those two things, the pump and inflammation, makes it feel like you're bulky, but it's only temporary. If you stop going to the gym, you have a couple of days break, it goes. So I guess my
Hmm.
probably main message here would be get in the gym as your
Yeah.
long-term strategy. As your short-term strategy, walk as much as possible, do some weight supported cardio if you can't walk.
Hmm. 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 Well, Jason, I certainly do appreciate your time, man. And listen, for anyone that's on the weight loss journey group that's listening to this, um, Jason, please give us some information for those that are interested in your coaching program.
Yeah. Well, we've got a program here with maybe 130 or 40 women and 150 to 70 guys. The probably the biggest thing that we can give you, and I'm not going to turn this into a pitch because ultimately people need to be ready.
Hmm.
The two things that we can give you is a simple plan and some good old fashioned support and accountability. And when you've got those two things, you make weight loss possible. That's the key. If you're willing to play the long game, you're willing to just do away with the, oh, what's the quickest way to do this mentality, and you're instead ready to play a long game, like you have, dude, we can change our life. I've been
Most definitely.
revising my mission statements this morning. One of
Hmm.
which is inspiring big life changes through simple, supportive coaching. Like
Yeah.
we don't need to reinvent the wheel. You don't need to do the new shiny object. You just need to
Hmm.
do what works and be willing to stick in the game long enough to let it play out.
Yeah.
Make
I
sense?
totally makes plenty of sense, man. And again, I thank you for your time and your patience for
Dude.
the work for the work you do. You. I'm gonna call you the bad boy of the weight loss industry.
Mate.
You go against everything that's status quo, and I like that about you. What drew my attention. You tell it like it is,
Yeah.
whether you agree or not. But what I recognize the results. People are having results, so you're not just talking the talk.
Yeah.
You walking the walk, and that's what I like about you. I don't connect with people too often. So for me to get on here side by side with you and say, hey, listen to this guy, he know what he's talking about, that means you are a trusted individual. And so I want to thank you personally.
Mate, it's with pleasure, and thanks for the words. Guys, well, we might leave it there. Hopefully this has been helpful for you, team. If you want to do more of these and you're one of our clients and you, like D'Andre, you're good at speaking to people, then get me on camera or get one of our coaches on camera, and we would love to do this. I've never actually thought to do this really before, D'Andre, so thanks for the idea. So guys, peace out. This has been the Better Body Academy podcast, coming in with a special episode from D'Andre Mccarter. I hope it's been beneficial, guys, and we'll see you in the next episode.